Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about peer influence during adolescence, and we're not going to get to the neuroscience yet. That's a different part. But in this video, we're mainly going to be talking about peer influence and the different ways in which adolescents are influenced by their peers. So first of all, it's really important to understand that the behaviors of adolescents and teens, they're highly related to the peer behaviors that their friends are exhibiting. And this has to do with three main reasons, which we're going to talk about. But it's important to know that during this period, we're incredibly sensitive to social feedback and what our peers are doing, because we want to feel this sense of belonging and safety, and a lot of that has to do with and a lot of that will be exhibited through our behaviors, which we want to imitate and mimic from our peers. So first, it's important to understand that there are certain developmental changes that are happening in the brain during adolescence. The first is increased sensitivity in the limbic system, which is the part of the brain responsible for regulating emotion and emotional response. So this might explain why adolescents may have difficulty with self-regulation or self-management in emotional situations. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain responsible for rational thinking, logic, and self-control. And so this might explain why teenagers may be more inclined to participate in more risky behaviors and more rebellious behaviors. The part of this prefrontal cortex, it does not fully develop until the age of 25. So that is really interesting and good to know. So homophily, this is the tendency for people to seek out or to be attracted to those who are similar to themselves. And so this is kind of similar to this in-group, out-group bias, where we see people who are similar to us in appearance, in intelligence, in attitudes and beliefs. And once we have selected these people, there's a lot that goes on within these social groups. And in fact, there's the idea that if you are participating in an activity with a particular social group, you as that individual will be more inclined to appreciate that group because of the other people who you are with, and because that has such a profound impact, your social environment has such a profound impact on whether or not you enjoy a particular activity. So if you are an athlete and you're wanting to try out a new sport, you might want to try out soccer. Well, the people in that sport, if you enjoy being around them, if you enjoy their social influence, then you're going to be more inclined to enjoy soccer because of that. So deviancy training is a social process that describes just how much our peers influence us. And it basically reinforces deviant behaviors through positive reinforcement of our peers. And then this increases the likelihood that we, as adolescents, will engage in these deviant behaviors. And so some of these deviant behaviors might include breaking the rules or substance abuse, violence, substance abuse, cigarettes, things of that nature, and that can have an effect on our willingness to perform those behaviors. So how might deviancy training be shown through social media? Well, a lot of this has to do with the like button, and why this is because the like button reinforces behavior, even though the content might not be necessarily appealing, might not be necessarily moral. This affects our mental processes about the post because of other people's behavior. If other people are inclined to like it, it has to do with this sense of a conformity. And if they are inclined to like it, then there's also the idea that we will probably be inclined to like it as well. And this might change our beliefs and attitudes subconsciously about a particular idea. So now we're going to talk about misperception of norms. And this has to do with, on social media or during the period of adolescence, we are, as human beings, are really bad at predicting other people's behaviors, and we misperceive social norms a lot. we conform to what we think others are doing. And online, it's really difficult to know what other people are thinking. And so there are two different types of social norms. There are descriptive norms and injunctive norms. Descriptive norms are estimations of other people's behavior. And this is the idea that we tend to believe that we are always in the majority. So if you were asked a certain question, like, how many people do you think enjoy Taylor Swift's 1989 album, and you give it an estimate, that you would feel like you are in the majority, although sometimes, which you probably are in this case, but sometimes humans will think that they are in the majority and they are not even close to being the majority. And so that can play a role a lot on social media when in terms of how we navigate our beliefs and how we navigate our attitudes. And then we have injunctive norms. And this has to do with estimations of others' attitudes. So a good concept to understand is pluralistic ignorance. And this has to do with the idea that because of our thoughts about what other people might think, that will influence how we think. So an example of this is if you're in a classroom and the professor is teaching something that you don't really understand, and then he asks, okay, do you have any questions? And you do not raise your hand because nobody else in the classroom is raising their hand, you're going to assume that they understand the concepts and you don't want to be the only one that doesn't understand the concepts. So you do not raise your hand because you're afraid of that social pressure and that how that might make you look if you were to raise your hand. Although there's probably a good chance that at least some of the other children and the students in the class do not understand what the concept is. So in terms of estimating behavior and attitude online, this just goes into, this is really shocking to me, and really even very scary even as a teenager myself. This is basically what this is saying. There's a lot of information online about alcohol and this reinforcement of alcohol, this positive reinforcement of alcohol online. And so what this might be saying is that if there are lots of teenagers participating in alcohol behaviors and they're making it look cool, there's a very high probability that this could become a social norm and teens could be thinking, oh, this is very prevalent among social platforms. It must be okay, or it must be part of our teenage years to participate in these dangerous activities. And like posting a picture of vomiting because of alcohol, like that is apparently cool. And so it's the idea that the more we reinforce deviant behaviors, dangerous behaviors, it has a very high ability to change our attitudes and in our beliefs about those behaviors because of the amount of participation that our peers are doing in these activities. So it's important to know that there really is a lot of difficulty in seeing truth on social media. Take this picture of Kate Middleton and Prince William, just a random picture, where Kate Middleton was wearing some black gloves, and this user said, I like them, but those gloves were a big no for me, huge no for me. Well, once we see this comment, it's difficult to know if it was just this person who thought this, or if there's a whole other social group that also believes that Kate Middleton's gloves do not complement her outfit. I personally think that they are beautiful, but it's hard to know how many people believe that this is actually the case, or whether it's just this person and these five other people who liked her comment. So here's some more misperception of norms. There's actually a concept called Snapchat dysmorphia, where teenagers or young people will go to plastic surgeons and seriously request to make themselves look like the Snapchat filters. And so what this is doing is, if teens are seeing these Snapchat filters, which you can see is obviously a huge difference in appearance, they might start to think that this is the way they're supposed to look. And it's going to create this unrealistic ideal of perfection that is just not possible. And so as a teenager myself, seeing these filters, having used Snapchat for quite some time, I do not have it anymore. But I remember the filters. I remember observing my peers and seeing just how much time they actually spent looking at themselves via the filter. It's important to think about how this might influence our perception of ourselves and how we think we should look based on the norms and values of social filters and what social media thinks that we should look like. So a question for parents that I have is, even if you were seeing content online that you know is false, do you still feel like it influenced you in any way, or makes you feel or makes you contemplate believing it, even if you think it's false? Have you found yourself considering if that might be true, because of other people believing it? It's just something to think about. So now we have the third reason why peers might conform to each other and certain behaviors based on the particular activities that teenagers are engaging in during adolescence. And the reasons why we conform is because what the identity management perspective demonstrates is that the reason why we conform is because it amplifies our perception of ourselves. And so it makes us feel better about ourselves. It's really what it is. It's important to know that teenagers are leaving the nest. We're going to be looking for other people in our age to help navigate the challenges of adolescence with. And this idea of reflected appraisal is we are going to be looking to our peers to see if certain things are cool or not. And then that will have an influence on whether we think it's cool or not, and then have an influence on our behavior. And so in high school and college, during these young years, we put labels on different social groups. Within adults, it's a lot less common, but in high school, you will see in the cafeteria, there are different tables of different social groups. Like you have the brains, the burnouts, the cheerleaders, the jocks. I'm sure if you've been in high school before, and we are putting labels on these groups. And this is because we're trying to find our identity. We're trying to match our identity with a certain social group. And so we're in this stage of life that Erik Erikson, I believe, called the identity versus confusion stage in our life. And so this is a very pivotal moment in our life, and we're on this search for who we are. And this can be scary, but this can also be very exciting. So this is very interesting and kind of scary for parents and educators and people in the older generations who are looking down on us. I'm sure you've seen this. So these are our role models that have the most following on social media. So we have, Cristiano Ronaldo, Ariana Grande, Kylie Jenner, Selena Gomez, Kim Kardashian, etc. And what I'm thinking is, a lot of these people, what they have in common is talent. They are all very talented. They are all very attractive, and they all have this heightened status. And so what might our teens be getting out of this? Well, they might be looking at these people and thinking about in ways in which they can reciprocate their behaviors, their activities, their appearance, so that they may feel more accepted by society, because it's so obvious that whatever these famous people are doing, they're doing it right because they have such a large following. So I think that as a teenager, we need to be rethinking our role models. Personally, I think that there are so many other incredible people that teens and adolescents are not paying as much attention to these days. And so as a parent, an educator, who is someone that you would like to see the younger generations look up to that would have a profound impact on our lives in a positive way? I think these people who I have listed out here are incredible. You'd be very surprised how many teens do not know who these people are. And it's scary to think about, because I really do think we need to be rethinking who we look up to focus less on the status and appearance and behaviors of others that evoke a large following, but think about the moral choices behind those people, the why behind the behaviors that they are doing, and why they want to make positive change. Okay, that is all. I will see you all in the next video.